The dark Coty is a collaboration fly between Ray Bergman and Victor Coty, his friend, developed specifically for dry fly fishing on the New York Ausable River. I'm tying it on a number 14 hook with gray thread. It is a hackle tip wing fly, so I have two light done hackle tips that I will tie in for the wings. I've stripped off the bottom barbs from those two tips that I have cut and sized to this hook. I want the wings to be about the length of the hook shank. Put one on each side of that hook shank and wrap over those butt ends, and then I'll pull back on the wings towards the eye of the hook and wrap underneath of them to get them to start to stand up. They will stand up more once I put the hackle on. And then I'll just separate them and push down between them. If they don't separate in the final fly, that's not a huge problem, as this is imitating a mayfly that would be landing on the water with its wings up. And to clip out the butt ends. And then I will just wrap back on the body to tie in the tail. And I'm not real worried about how those hackle tips have kind of separated themselves. They'll be fine. They're kind of hidden in the hackle when I put that on. And then I have a pinch of light hackle fibers, barbs, same feather, and I'll tie that in on the back about the length of the shank as well. Just wrap up over and get my wing caught in there though. I'm just take one wrap underneath of the tail feathers just to keep them from laying down too much against the shank of the hook. The body is a mix of muskrat that I have pulled off of the back. This would be the back before the tail. The tail is right there, that's been clipped off. So it's this darker muskrat that is mixed with, it says scarlet wool. Well, I have some red buggy yarn that I've pulled apart, and I notice that red just darkens the muskrat a little bit, but I want to be careful not to get red streaks in it, which is pretty easy to do with this red. It's not, I don't think it's wool, but it acts like it's a synthetic. So I'll just taper a body onto that, and the red just kind of darkens the muskrat a little bit more, and I suppose that's part of the dark Coty. They did also tie a light Coty, and one of the things that Bergman talked about, being a very prolific writer during the 30s, 40s, and 50s, is that these flies were hard to see on the water. and that was probably his one complaint about them. Also illustrates that he was willing to do a lot of experimentation with flies, looking for the ones that would best imitate, right? The phrase that we use today is match the hatch. So observe what is on the waters you fish and tie the flies to match those. And this is the basic technique for tying a hackle tip wing dry fly. So I'll wrap that, dubbing right up to the wing. And then for the front hackle, I have a darker done hackle feather. What I will do is just cut it off back here where the barbs get to be about the right length for a 14 hook. I'll pull down on those bottom barbs and then clip out on each side of the rachis to create what I've heard and read called a crew cut. And I'll lay that against the shank of the hook in front of the wings first, and then bring my thread back behind the wings. Keep those wings upright. And then bring my thread back out in front, take it up to where I will tie off the hackle. Put my hackle pliers on that feather. It is a fairly short feather. And then I'll do a couple wraps behind the wing. And really dress the hackle to the amount of hackle you feel that it's going to need in order to help the fly float in the waters that you're fishing it. And then I'll tie that off. I put 3 wraps over the top of the stem or rachis to catch it in. Then I can let go of it. I'll pull back on everything to get a clean eye and just wrap up over the stem a little bit right there to secure it in. And I can grab that stem, be sure I'm grabbing it and not the wings. And best case is just to be able to snap it out. Get the wings to stand up properly. They're kind of hidden inside of that hackle, and that's fine. And then make the decision whether to tie this off with a whip finish or with a couple of half hitches. I think the eye is clean enough. I can put a 3 whip finish out in front without catching in any of the hackle fibers. Just take my scissors and push it against the thread. Pull out all the barbs that don't belong there. The head cement that I use is a diluted Goop. I'll put a recipe for that in the description. I just stick a needle in my jar, grab a drop, put that on the head. That will soak in and dry clear. And then to make sure that that eye is tippet ready, I'll pass a hackle feather through the eye and clean it out.